All right, there's the beep. This is Addison Allgood coming to you from the Shop podcast studio. I'm here today with Bob Jusnes from Black River Woodwork and also the town of Angier Mayor. Mr. Mayor, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, thanks for coming in. I appreciate the support, man.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
I've never done anything like this, so we'll see how it goes.
You're pretty good at running your mouth, though.
Thank you.
I meant that in a good way.
I can ramble on if it's something I know something about. And if
Okay.
I don't, I can make something up for a couple minutes.
That's probably going to be a few instances in here.
It's like a magic trick. I distract you. Look over here. Bob doesn't know what he's talking about. Look over here.
Well, let's let's start with something. I guess you do know something about Black River Woodwork, man.
Yes.
Give us a little backstory on that.
So that's my construction company. Right now we are a licensed general contractor. Most of what we do is remodel work, from whole houses to additions to bathrooms, but we also started our company with trim and cabinetry, so we still do a lot of cabinetry jobs, built-ins, trim details. We build almost every kitchen that we remodel, we provide the cabinetry for. I have a small shop, and we build everything from raw sheet goods and lumber and put it all together, and most of the time it's pretty good.
Yeah, I saw y'all did the cabinetry at the Little Goat around the corner.
We did the Little Goat. Yeah, that was an honor to be a part of that. She had most of the design already in her head, and we just put it all together. I think it came out nice.
Yeah, I got to see your dad working on it and how step by step through the whole process. Very cool, excellent craftsmanship, and it just turned out great.
I think so. So we started that company in 2010, but I've been in construction for a long time. So it's a well-established business, and I enjoy it.
It's fun creating things.
I like creating and changing things. It's probably the most rewarding part of it. And if I could pay the bills as I go, then it's success.
It's a win-win.
Yeah. I'm not exactly banking a whole bunch of extra money, but I enjoy what I do, and that's worth something.
No, you got a beautiful home, Black River Woodworking. What brought you to Angier? When did you come to Angier?
So we moved to Angier probably in 2010, I think, was the first time, because I lived in Fuquay when the housing market crashed in 2008. I was working for my dad at the time, and when work dried up, my wife Courtney is from Louisiana, so we went to Louisiana, sold our house, and we went down there because the oil industry had still propped the housing market up. So we went down to Louisiana. I found a job for a guy. I got the job because I was the only one who knew how to email a resume. That was his metric. He listed the job, and the only way you could apply was to email a resume. And apparently I was the only applicant that could figure it out.
What job was this?
It was construction supervisor.
Okay. Okay.
And so he hired me as a supervisor and put me right on his construction crew to run it. And I mean, 2 months in, he got to a point where, he taught me how to meet with people, look at jobs, find out what they need. He taught me how to price the jobs, the margins that he wanted, and how to figure hours and how to call and get quotes on material. And so it got to a point where I would meet him every Wednesday, and he would give me a list of phone numbers, leads that he had gotten as the owner of the business, and I would go meet them, price the job, do the work, get the check, and then every Wednesday we would trade checks for phone numbers. I'd give him the checks, he'd give me the phone numbers, and then he would go on his boat to Mexico or wherever. I don't know where he went, but he wasn't there. Well, he gave me a truck, and he gave me a trailer of tools, and he gave me a crew of guys who were breathing, and and we did it. But so it was Louisiana, and we were there for 9 months. And when it's cold there, it's cold, and when it's hot, it's hot. And near the end of my tenure there, he had me re-roofing mobile homes in the middle of the summer, and I'm a big boy.
Yeah.
Or then I was much bigger, and I sweat a lot. And so when I started having to change my entire wardrobe twice a day,
Yeah.
I was like, look, I can't do this anymore. And so we came back to North Carolina, just figuring I would work wherever. We moved in with my parents in Fuquay, and that's when Courtney inspired me to start my company. That's what she does, by the way. I don't have a lot of big ambition. Courtney's usually the one that says, hey, you ran that guy's company. You know how to do the work. You know how to price the jobs. You know how to run a construction company. So you should just start a construction company.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's fine.
If you're making enough money for him to disappear on his boat, then
Yeah.
You can buy your own job.
Now, I haven't gotten there yet. I'm still
Not there
working
yet.
to get to that point. But so that's what we did. I started a company and I made a deal with my dad. And so I subbed to him so we could get some money coming in on the work he had. And then as I got my own jobs, I would go off and do my own thing. And so, but we were still living with my parents. We were anxious to not be.
Yeah.
And so we came to Angier because the rent was cheap, and we got a house here off of East Lillington Street for $550 a month.
Okay.
It's mind blowing right now.
Yeah.
$550 a month, and we got this little house, and that's how we ended up in Angier. And I started my company right around the same time, and so that's how my company got its name. Was, I liked Angier, and I was proud to be in Angier, and I wanted to represent Angier, but I didn't want to call it Angier Woodwork because most of my work was in North Raleigh, Cary. All the money for the type of work I did wasn't in Angier. It was somewhere else, which is fine. So I named it Black River because it sounds cool.
It does sound cool.
It sounds cool, and it also, if you go to Cary or Apex or Raleigh, they don't know where Black River is.
Right.
So it's Black River Woodwork, and my original shirts would say Angier NC on the bottom for, little Angier pride. That's how we ended up here. I think, like, probably how most people end up here is it was quiet, and it was affordable, and it had what you needed. It had a grocery store and a DMV and a liquor store, and I mean, you can live your life in a town like that. And the drive wasn't bad to Cary or Apex. It was some traffic coming out of Cary and Apex, and then at the time, at least, it was an easy drive through Fuquay back to Angier or whatever. So that's how we ended up here in 2010. I don't know. Courtney's got the
She's got the timeline.
She's got the dates locked down. Every date and every time I've ever said something I shouldn't have said or done something I shouldn't have done is locked in to her vault there. So she doesn't let me forget. Thank you, hon, for that.
I love you, Mindy. She does.
I love Mindy too.
She does that too.
Yeah. I think that might be an indicator of a strong woman.
Indeed.
A good woman, right? If she can remember everything you ever said that was bad. Now the good stuff all just gets lumped up into one thing.
Yeah, because that's expected.
Yeah, exactly.
And deserved.
You don't get credit for that. That's why she's with you. It's for the good stuff. But when you slip up, she's got files.
Tighten up.
Yeah.
Tighten up, Addison.
Exactly.
So, all right. Black River. Yeah, $550 a month.
$550 a month. We rented, and it was fine. It was just me and Courtney. It was a little 2-bedroom house. The laundry machine was in the kitchen. The water heater was in the kitchen. Didn't have a dishwasher, but whatever. We loved that house. It was just me and her, and we still will talk about the time we spent in that house, and life was easy. Rent was cheap. The house was cute. I mean, I went to work. It came back, and that was our whole life back then. It was much simpler time.
Origins.
That's right.
And that was actually Miss Rachel's house, correct?
So that was not. We actually lived next door to Miss Rachel.
Okay.
In that first house. And then as we were starting to grow our family, we realized that house probably was not the right spot to start a family with a couple of kids. It just wasn't big enough. Mm-hmm. Not, it probably was, but, we would drive past this house on Depot Street every day. Nobody lived in it. It's a little 2-story Cape Cod up here, right across from the park. And we would drive past it every day. And as we were thinking that we might want to move up, as my business was becoming more successful, we said, I love that house so much, and we couldn't find anything out about it. So we went on property records and found out who owned it, and then it was Miss Rachel, but we didn't know her at the time, even though we lived right next door to her. We didn't know her, and so I looked her up, and we were like, oh, she lives right next door to us. And so we walked over there and knocked on her door, and she said, oh, that was her mom's house, and nobody lives in it because they don't want to deal with the hassle of renters and having to manage that. And we talked to her and made promises, and assurances that, we were easy people, and I was in construction, and the house was old. I think it was built in 35 or something like that. And I said, I'm happy to do minor repairs, or, I'm not going to call you for little stuff, but please, we love that house. We please rent us that house. And it had a shed too, which is another thing. So I was starting to get a couple of trailers and some material, and the house we were in wasn't supportive of that. But so she agreed to rent it to us, and we lived there for a couple of years in Miss Rachel's mama's house.
Nice.
And the rent there, I think, was $750, or maybe, I don't even remember, $750, something like that. And it's funny because the house was so much bigger. I mean, it wasn't a big house, but the one we were in was pretty small. Mm-hmm. It was square foot in the hundreds. It wasn't even 3-digit square foot. So we moved into Miss Rachel's mama's house and moved all of our stuff in there, and it still echoed. So we started going to estate sales and just buying all the furniture at the estate sale. I mean, just like bed sets and dressers, and we didn't have anything.
Right.
We just needed something for cheap that we could fill the space with, and it wouldn't echo anymore. And so that's how we stocked that house, was through estate sales.
There you go.
But we still, and that's another house too that we still look back on, and we wanted to buy the house, and it didn't work out, which is fine. She still rents it to this day. We got her back into the swing of renting it.
Nice. Happy 90th birthday, by the way, Miss Rachel.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't. She doesn't look a day over 55.
Right?
I don't know. I've seen some 55-year-old people that look older than her.
Yeah, I hope I look that good at 55.
I hope I'm still alive at 55. I'll take 55. Forget too. 90. That feels like forever ago. But yeah, that was Miss Rachel is a fantastic lady. And lots of people know her in different ways. But really, the truest way that Courtney and I know her was as the lady who rented the house to us. And the best story I have about Miss Rachel was, so this was, work was slow again in construction, and we were living in her house, and it got to a point where we couldn't make ends meet. And so we went to Miss Rachel, and we just told her what the situation was. I don't think I can make the rent, but if you'll work with us, I will pay you the rent when I get a couple of jobs, and I'll be fine. And Miss Rachel said, don't worry about it. It's fine. She loved us. Just stay there and we'll work it out. And then the next month came, and I had to go back to Miss Rachel and say, look, Miss Rachel, I'm scrapping metal to buy groceries. We're getting by, but I mean, it would really be helpful if you could work with us. And she said, no, don't even worry about it. Month 3 came along, same story. Couldn't pay the rent. By the 4th month now, work had picked up, and so I was doing good. And I did pay her every penny of the back rent, and she was super happy about it. But if not for the grace of Miss Rachel, we would not be where we are today. So we owe a lot to Miss Rachel, because I don't know what would have happened. She had every right to say, if you can't pay the rent, then you can't stay in the house. I'm sorry. Every right to say that, and I wouldn't have argued with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know what we would have done. We certainly wouldn't have gone down the path we did go down. So thank you, Miss Rachel. I don't know if she'll listen to this. I don't know if it's her thing or not, but
she might. Next time I see her, I'll make sure to tell you about it. Hey, hear about you.
Yeah.
Hear about you.
That's what you need. You need to get Miss Rachel in here. That would be an entertaining little podcast.
That would be, especially when she gets fired up about something.
Oh, yes. She will tell you how she feels about anything. That's why I love her. People like that are hard to find sometimes. So
pretty cool. We're here in downtown Angier, and we got a nice view, actually, of the mural with Miss Rachel
That's
on
right.
it, holding the mailbag for the train that used to run through downtown.
That's right. She's been here for 174 years.
174 years.
No, she is a huge part of this town's history. They call her the matriarch. She's the living historian for the town, because if you want to know about the history of Angier, she was there for it.
Yep.
So,
And she'll tell you about it. Feel free to check out the Angier Museum. It's actually a really cool place. A quick story. I went in there and found a picture of an old mayor,
yeah,
Dupree.
yeah.
And when we moved into our house down there by Wimberley, it said the Dupree House,
Uh-huh.
established 1910.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of cool to dig into where you live and where you're.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Miss Rachel had plenty of stories about our house.
Yeah.
We bought our house from the infamous Norwood Adams, which the longer you live here and you talk to people who knew Mr. Adams, they've got good stories and they got bad stories, but there's always stories. And Miss Rachel had a lot of history on our house for us, which was cool. She tells us she remembers our house was built in 1950, and she still remembers and will tell the story of when they finished that house. It was built by a doctor at the time, and they threw a big party when they finished the house. And Miss Rachel remembers as a girl, going to the party when that house was finished, and she loved the glass back windows, which are now inside the house. It's been added to several times, but it's curious to know what other people know about your house. That's the joy of living in an older house, is that it has such a history. Even when we lived in Miss Rachel's mama house, she would say, "Oh, when Alan Coates was born and his mom had to stay in the hospital, they brought Alan Coates to that house, and they kept him in the back room till his mom got out of the hospital." And there's just so much history in this town, and the people and the homes and businesses, and it's nice to have a small enough community where people still remember the history of it,
Mm-hmm. And with all the growth coming this way, we just got to hold on to it and make sure we don't lose it.
That's the challenge, right? I mean, people are moving here because it's more affordable, but because they love the town, just like I did. I love the town. And so growth, that's a fun topic. I mean, we need some amount of growth in order to continue to provide services. I mean, at the base level of town functioning, we need tax revenue to provide services and maintain older infrastructure, water pipes and repaving roads. I mean, that money has to come from somewhere. So the growth helps keep the burden off the people that already live here, so they don't have to raise taxes to fix the streets, because we've got enough new people coming in and paying new taxes that we could just cover that stuff. But
speaking of that, Mr. Mayor, I need to talk to you about my driveway.
your drive, that sounds like private property.
Actually, the town has an easement 15 feet into my front lawn, so that's actually...
Is that town maintained, though, or does that just mean the town can use it?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to talk to Jimmy.
I have to talk to Jimmy, because if it's your property and it's not up to snuff, then we'll
then it's my fault.
We'll
Okay.
make sure. So you just decide if you want to open this can of worms. Yeah, I don't know how that works. I'm pretty sure that the driveway is your problem, man. I'm sorry,
Oh, dang it.
but we'll find out. Talk to Jimmy. Not even. I think it's Brandon now. We got to talk to Brandon.
Okay.
Jimmy was promoted.
That's right. Congratulations, Jimmy.
Jimmy is the town project manager now, because we've got some big projects: water tower, water pipe replacement, police station, and we need somebody on staff who could just live and breathe new projects and not be encumbered by some schmuck who thinks the town needs to pave his driveway.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So that's what Jimmy does, but Jimmy is still very much involved. Jimmy, speaking of history, Jimmy's been here almost 30 years now. And so Jimmy knows this town, the infrastructure of it, like the back of his hand. So he still helps Brandon, because Jimmy remembers when they
Yep.
buried some of these pipes and where they are. So We're going to hang out to Jimmy for as long as we can. I know Jimmy's got a countdown timer on his phone till his retirement, but we're going to try to hold on to that guy.
I don't blame you, Jimmy. But he actually, I mean, right out front, we had a pipe break in the road, and I called Jimmy, and 15 minutes later, the crew was out here ready to dig it up and fix it. So
we can talk about Jimmy for like a whole episode. When we lived here off East Lillington Street, we had sewer back up because the house was old, and this was 10, 12, 13 years ago, and we still remember Jimmy himself on a weekend riding down in a tractor to jet the clean out at the street. It was a town problem. Just as cheerful as could be and as friendly and helpful. Hey, I'm here to fix that, and he fixed it, and then he rode off on his tractor again. I didn't even know who he was, but so many people have stories like that about Jimmy. My neighbor next door right now told me a story the other day. Her husband had passed, and she was trying to get a piece of plywood into the house or something like that, and she couldn't do it. And so she, being another strong woman, just marched out to Broad Street and flagged somebody down. And was like, hey, come help me carry this plywood in the house. So the first guy she flagged, which happened to be Jimmy Cook, and he helped her out, man. He carried the plywood in the house and went along his way. And I don't know if she knew who he was either, but Jimmy's like the ever-present guy who cares.
that's awesome.
And that's a quality that you want to keep in somebody that runs a division of the town,
Man, Jimmy, you don't need to retire, do you?
He doesn't. We gave him a raise too, and I told him that, the longer he works with that higher pay, the higher his retirement will be.
Right.
But also, if we can keep adding new projects and then putting it on his list and not letting him leave until they're done, then almost in perpetuity we could keep Jimmy till well past his death.
Okay. I got a couple projects in my backyard we can throw in there.
All right.
Shout out to Jimmy Cook.
Yeah. Jimmy Cook.
Jimmy Cook. We should have Jimmy in here for a podcast. Maybe part of that community relations.
Yeah.
The story of Jimmy Cook.
That would be fun.
The story of Elizabeth Krieg. The story of Veronica Hardaway.
We should do that. I think I'll call some people.
All right.
I don't get to actually make decisions like that. I'm mostly a figurehead. Poke people with my ideas. Like the people who can actually do things, I'm like, hey, what if we did this? No,
Yeah, I think
that's dumb, Bob. Okay, sorry. What if we do this? All right, that one's better. I'll run with that one. Okay.
I know you put that in the email to Elizabeth, and she came in. I think she's just not sure.
Yeah.
About, I think you just need to get her in here, throw the headphones on, and start running our mouths.
How many microphones do you have?
I have two. Two really, really nice microphones.
So you could swing one around and put two people on the other side and share one microphone potentially?
Exactly.
Do you have enough headphones for that?
You don't necessarily need headphones for that.
All right.
But
let me see.
Yeah, when we did it with the chiropractors, they all tried to use the same microphone, the same headphones.
Yeah,
that was funny.
That's weird. I took my headphones off just so I could see. I could still hear you because you're 3 feet from me, so it might still work. And we can put it back on. I just wanted to.
It'll probably still work. I've got to run my mouth with this guy real quick.
Oh gosh, man. All right. Well, turn this off in case I sneeze or fart or something.
All right, and on that note, we ran into some technical difficulties when we came back, but we didn't really talk much about anything else except, pickup trucks and gas cans, and maybe we'll put that out in a little bit. But thank you to Mr. Mayor, Bob Jusnes, Black River Woodworking, Jimmy Cook, Town Project Manager, Miss Rachel for your history and your lessons and your kind heart. This is part of the town that we love so much, and that's why we're here. So we love y'all. We'll see y'all next time at the shop. Okay. Yeah, this is one of those spots where I think up something else to say.
All right.
And I can delete it later.
We should think ahead and take notes and stuff. Because I don't ever know what to talk about. I'm good at answering questions. I'm not great at posing them.
Well, I'm better at posing, I think.
Okay. You're an excellent posier.
Posier.